Today, we're going to explore one of the most fascinating and influential civilizations in history, the Islamic Empire. Get ready to travel back in time as we uncover the mysteries and wonders of this incredible empire. Let's get started. The Arab people have a rich and complex origin that dates back thousands of years. They are a Semitic ethnic group, native mainly to the Middle East and North Africa, originating from the Arabian Peninsula. The region they inhabited was made up mostly of desert areas, which led many of its inhabitants to become nomads known as Bedouins, who wandered the desert in search of water and better living conditions. Medieval Arab genealogists studied their origins and divided the Arabs into two main groups. The Arabs of southern Arabia, descendants of Cathan, identified with the biblical Yucatan, who migrated from Yemen before the destruction of the Marib Dam, and the Arabs of northern Arabia, descendants of Adnan, supposedly a descendant of Ishmael via Kedar. To speak of Islam, we must first tell the story of the founder of Islam in order to better understand the history of this warrior people. The man who started this nation was Muhammad, also known as Muhammad. Born in Mecca, in present-day Saudi Arabia, around the year 570, he came from a family of the Hashemite clan, part of the Quraysh tribe. His father, Abdallah, died before he was born, and his mother, Amina, died when he was only 6 years old. After his mother's death, Muhammad was raised by his paternal grandfather and later by his uncle Abu Talib. In his youth, Muhammad worked as a merchant and shepherd. He was known for his honesty and integrity, earning the nickname Al-Amin, which means the trustworthy. At the age of 25, he married Khadijah, a wealthy widow who hired him to manage her business. They had 4 daughters and 2 sons, but only Fatima survived to adulthood. At the age of 40, Muhammad began to receive visions and revelations from the angel Gabriel, while meditating in a cave on Mount Hira. These revelations formed the basis of the Quran, the holy book of Islam. Muhammad began preaching the message of one God, Allah, and faced resistance and persecution in Mecca. In 622, due to growing hostility in Mecca, Muhammad and his followers fled to Medina, an event that became known as the Hijra, which marks the beginning of the Islamic calendar. In Medina, Muhammad established an Islamic community and led several battles to defend and expand his faith. He returned to Mecca in 629 and managed to conquer the city without bloodshed. The Quran was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad between 610 and 632 CE, when the angel Gabriel brought him a message from God. The revelations were made gradually over a period of 23 years until the prophet's death. They covered many aspects of life, including religious beliefs, social practices, and laws. The Quran, or Quran, the holy book of Islam, is revered by Muslims as the literal word of God. It plays a central role in the faith and religious practice of Muslims. Manuscripts of the Quran have been found on parchment, stone, palm leaves, and camel bones. A fragment of the Quran was found at the University of Birmingham, written in an early form of Arabic on sheep or goat skin. Researchers at the University of Birmingham in England have discovered what may be the oldest fragments of the Quran in the world. According to carbon dating of the material, this copy of the Muslim holy book may be around 1,370 years old. In other words, whoever wrote it may have heard the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam. Another interesting example is the Blue Quran, a precious 9th century manuscript that was recently analyzed at the Zayed National Museum in Abu Dhabi. Using multispectral imaging technology, researchers discovered verses hidden beneath intricate gold patterns. The compilation of all the revelations of the Quran into a single standardized book took place during the Caliphate of Uthman ibn Affan between 644 and 656 CE. This effort was made to avoid discrepancies between different regional recitations. It consists of 114 chapters called surahs, which are arranged in size from largest to smallest. It contains the 5 pillars of Islam, which are essential obligations for the practice of faith. The first pillar is the Shahada, the profession of faith, affirming the oneness of God and the prophethood of Muhammad. The second pillar is Salat, representing the 5 daily prayers, which are a means of strengthening the believer's connection with Allah, God, and a form of spiritual discipline. Muslims perform salat at 5 specific times of the day: Fajr, before sunrise; Dhuhr in the early afternoon, just after noon; Asr, mid-afternoon; Maghrib, just after sunset; and Isha in the evening, when it is already dark. The third pillar is zakat, obligatory charity to those in need. The fourth pillar is Saum, fasting during the holy month of Ramadan. And finally Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, which every Muslim must make at least once in his or her life if he or she is physically and financially able. Ramadan is a time of spiritual reflection, increased devotion, and deepening of faith. Celebrated in the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, it is a holy time for Muslims around the world. During this month, Muslims observe a daily fast from dawn to sunset, a practice known as Saum. Ramadan commemorates the first revelation of the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad. Extra prayers, Taraweeh, are performed in the evening, usually in the mosque. Other practices during this month include readings from the Quran, as well as Zakat al-Fitr, an obligatory donation to the poor at the end of Ramadan. Iftar is the meal that breaks the daily fast, eaten at sunset, usually starting with eating dates and drinking water, followed by a full meal. Ramadan ends with a celebration of Eid al-Fitr, festival of breaking the fast, one of the two main Islamic festivals. On this day, Muslims perform a special prayer in congregation, share festive meals with family and friends, and give gifts such as clothes, toys, jewelry, and more. During the Islamic Golden Age, roughly the 8th to 13th centuries, Muslims made significant advances in many areas of knowledge. Many scientific terms have Arabic origins, such as algebra and alcohol, and are still used today. In algebra, Avicenna, also known as Ibn Sina, was a Persian polymath born in 980 in Afshana, in present-day Uzbekistan, who wrote the Book of Healing and the Canon of Medicine. And Al-Hazan, also known as Ibn al-Haytham, made advances in optics and wrote the Book of Optics, Kitab al-Manazir. Another Al-Khwarizmi, 780 to 850, was a Persian mathematician who contributed to the development of algebra, arithmetic, and astronomy. He is often called the father of algebra. Al-Khwarizmi studied at the House of Wisdom, Bait al-Hikmah, in Baghdad, an intellectual center where he studied and translated knowledge from around the world into Arabic, writing the book Al-Jabr wal-Muqabala, where we first use the word algebra. He made many contributions to astronomy, producing calculations to track the movements of the sun, moon, and planets, and revised Ptolemy's geography, among other discoveries. After the death of Muhammad in 632 CE, disputes arose between the Sunnis and Shiites. The main cause of the division was the issue of the succession of the Prophet. The Sunnis believed that the Caliph should be chosen by the Muslim community, while the Shiites argued that leadership should remain in Muhammad's family, specifically with Ali, his son-in-law and cousin. This dispute led to conflicts and civil wars, such as the First Fitna, 656 to 661, which was a civil war between the followers of Ali and the followers of Muawiyah, the governor of Syria. Over the centuries, tensions between Sunnis and Shias continued to arise in different regions and contexts, often exacerbated by political and social issues. Abu Bakr, one of his closest companions and father-in-law, was chosen as the first caliph of the Muslim community. This marked the beginning of the Orthodox Caliphate, also known as the Rashidun Caliphate, which led the expansion of Islam. As the first caliph, he conquered a rapid territorial expansion, including Persia, Syria, Palestine, and Egypt. The Second Umayyad Caliphate lasted from 661 to 750 AD, continuing Islamic expansion, establishing a vast empire stretching from the Iberian Peninsula to South Asia. Damascus was chosen as the capital of the Caliphate. This period was marked by the construction of the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem and the defeat at the Battle of Tours in 732 AD, which halted Islamic expansion into Western Europe. The Third Abbasid Caliphate from 750 to 1258 AD, after overthrowing the Umayyads, decided to move the capital to Baghdad, which became a center of knowledge, culture, and commerce, becoming the Islamic Golden Age. With the weakening of the Abbasid Caliphate, Regional empires emerged such as the Fatimids in Egypt, the Seljuks in Persia, and the Almoravids and Almohads in North Africa and the Iberian Peninsula. The rise of the Seljuk Turks marked the beginning of the Crusades, a series of conflicts with the European Christian kingdoms. The Crusades were military and religious expeditions organized by European Christians between the 11th and 13th centuries, with the main objective of reconquering the Holy Land, especially Jerusalem, which was under Islamic rule, increasing religious intolerance among Christians, Muslims, and Jews. Persecution of non-Christians intensified, especially in the Iberian Peninsula. With the end of the Crusades, the Middle East region underwent several changes of power, with Crusader states such as the Kingdom of Jerusalem, the County of Edessa, the County of Tripoli, and the Principality of Antioch gradually being reconquered by Muslim forces. The Ottoman Empire began in the late 13th century and became one of the largest and longest-lasting Islamic empires. In 1453, the Ottomans conquered Constantinople, renaming it Istanbul. The empire reached its peak under Suleiman the Magnificent in the 16th century, dominating much of Southeast Europe, West Asia, and North Africa. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, many Islamic regions were colonized by European powers. A region of the world that belonged to the former Ottoman Empire, 1299 to 1920, and that was handed over by the victorious powers to the tutelage of Great Britain and France shortly after the end of the First World War, because it was inhabited by peoples who were not yet capable of governing themselves, according to Article 22 of the Covenant of the League of Nations, dated 1919. In this territory, the states or emirates of Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Cyprus, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Yemen, Israel, Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Palestine, Syria, and Turkey were progressively established. The process of European decolonization began to gain momentum after the First World War, due to the weakening of the European powers. But it was after the Second World War that decolonization really accelerated, leading to large-scale decolonization. The discovery of oil in the Middle East began in the early 20th century. In 1908, geologist George Bernard Reynolds discovered oil in Persia, present-day Iran. This discovery led to the creation of the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, APOC, in 1909, which began large-scale production in 1913, quickly expanding to other parts of the Middle East. These discoveries transformed the region into one of the world's leading oil producers. During the 1950s, many countries in the region began to nationalize their oil industries, removing control from Western companies. A notable example is the nationalization of the Iranian oil industry in 1951. In 1960, the creation of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, marked a turning point. OPEC, comprised of several Middle Eastern countries, including Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, and Qatar, allowed these countries to exert greater control over oil production and prices. As the lights of the vast desert glowed with black gold, the Middle East was irreversibly transformed, cementing Arab dominance over one of the world's most valuable commodities. This narrative of power and wealth harks back to ancient times, to the great Islamic empire that was once a bridge of civilizations, knowledge, and trade. Today, the Middle East continues to play a crucial role on the world stage, not only for its oil, but for its historical and cultural legacy. If you enjoyed this historical journey, don't forget to like, share with friends, and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating videos on history and global impact. Until next time, and remember, history is alive all around us. We just need to know where to look.